The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest structure ever built by any species. It floated in the empty space between three star systems, and its walls were made of living crystal that sang when light touched them. For 10,000 years, this place had been the heart of galactic peace. Wars had ended here. Treaties had been signed. And when words failed, disputes were settled in the ancient way, the Arena of Accord. Kim Yuna had read about it during her journey from Earth. The arena was a circle of white sand, 50 meters wide, surrounded by rising galleries where representatives from 100 different species could watch. The rules were simple and absolute. No weapons of any kind. No tools. No technology. When two species had a conflict they could not solve with words, their champions would fight using only what nature had given them. For most species, nature had been generous. The Velthari had 4 arms ending in pincers that could crush steel. The Thornback people were covered in poisonous spines. The Mineweavers could attack with pure psychic force. The Stone Kings were literally made of living rock. Humans had soft skin, dull teeth, and no claws at all. Yuna stood in the preparation chamber beneath the arena, trying to control her breathing. She was 24 years old, small even by human standards, with short black hair and eyes that her mother always said were too serious for such a young face. She had trained as a translator at Seoul National University, studied 7 alien languages, and joined Earth's diplomatic corps because she believed in peaceful solutions. She had never expected to fight anyone. 3 hours ago, everything had been normal. The human delegation had arrived for routine trade negotiations with the Velthari Empire. Ambassador Cho had been leading the talks. Yuna's job was to catch the subtle meanings that the translation machines sometimes missed. Then Ambassador Cho had collapsed. The medical team said it was poison, something that had been slipped into his water. He would survive, but he could not move or speak. The Velthari High Counselor, a massive creature named Tith, had immediately accused Earth of trying to delay the negotiations. Under Council law, such an accusation could only be answered in the arena. And under Council law, when a delegation's leader could not fight, the challenge passed to the next available representative. That was Yuna. She had tried to explain that she was just a translator. The council arbitrators had been sympathetic but firm. The law was the law. She could withdraw, of course. Earth would simply lose the trade dispute by default and pay heavy penalties. The Velthari would gain control of 3 human colony worlds. 3 million people would wake up tomorrow under alien rule. Yuna could not let that happen. The door to the chamber opened, and a figure made of blue light entered. This was the Arena Master, an artificial intelligence that had overseen combat here for 8,000 years. Kim Yuna of Earth had said. Its voice was gentle, almost sad. The time has come. Do you wish to withdraw? There is no shame in recognizing biological limitations. Yuna looked at her hands. Small hands. Soft hands. Hands that had never thrown a punch in anger, but they were strong hands. Her father, Park Dong-soo, had made sure of that. He had been a Marine for 20 years before retiring to run a small gym in Bizen. Every morning of Yuna's childhood, he had woken her before sunrise to train. Running, swimming, fighting. Pain is information, he always said. It tells you that you are still alive. It tells you that you have not given up. Listen to it, but do not obey it. Yuna had hated those mornings. She had complained and cried and begged to sleep like normal children. But she had never quit. Her father would not let her. And somewhere along the way, she had stopped wanting to. I will not withdraw, she told the Arena Master. The blue light flickered, almost like a sigh. Very well. I am required to inform you about your opponent. Commander Dreth of the Velthari Empire has fought in the arena 11 times. He has won 11 times. His species possesses 4 limbs ending in specialized crushing appendages, an exoskeleton capable of resisting most physical trauma, and compound eyes that provide 360-degree vision. What are his weaknesses? The arena master paused. That information is not part of the standard briefing. But, another pause. I know everything that has ever happened in this arena. I am not permitted to share tactical information with combatants. Yuna nodded. She had expected that. Then I will find his weaknesses myself. She walked past the arena master and into the tunnel that led to the fighting floor. The white sand glowed under lights that had no visible source. The galleries above were filled with aliens of every shape and size. She saw creatures with too many eyes, creatures with no eyes at all, creatures that seemed to be made of liquid or gas or pure energy. All of them were looking at her dot at the far end of the arena. A door opened, and Commander Dreth entered. He was enormous, 3 meters tall, with a body like a tank covered in dark red armor. His forearms hung at his sides, each one ending in a pincer the size of Yuna's head. His face was a nightmare of compound eyes and clicking mandibles. He looked at Yuna and made a sound that the translation matrix interpreted as laughter. This is the human champion? His voice was deep and grinding, like stones being crushed together. I have killed warriors twice her size. I have broken beings of living metal. And they send me this small soft thing? Yuna said nothing. She was watching how he moved, how he held himself, where his weight rested. Her father had taught her that everybody had a story. You just had to read it. Dreth walked with a slight favor to his lower left side. Old injury, maybe, or a weakness in the joint. Human, Dreth continued, moving closer. I will give you one chance. Kneel before me now. Admit your species' guilt, and I will kill you quickly. Otherwise, I will make it slow. I will make it educational. I will show every species watching what happens when weak creatures pretend to be strong. Yuna looked up at him. Her heart was pounding so hard, she could hear it in her ears. Her hands were shaking. Every instinct she had was screaming at her to run. But Kim Yuna had never run from anything in her life. My name is Kim Yuna, she said, her voice steady. I am a translator for the Earth Diplomatic Corps. I have never fought in an arena. I have never killed anyone. I do not want to hurt you. She raised her fists. But I will not kneel. I will not surrender. And I will not let you take our worlds. Dreth's mandibles clicked again. Then you will die, little human. Maybe, Yuna agreed. But I will die standing. The arena master's chime rang out across the sand. The fight began. Dreth moved faster than anything that large should be able to move. One moment he was standing 3 meters away. The next moment, his upper right pincer was cutting through the air toward Yuna's head. She had been expecting speed. Her father had trained her against opponents of every size, and the big ones were always faster than they looked. Never assume, he had told her. Never wait. Move first or move dead. Yuna dropped dot. She did not duck or dodge or step aside. She simply let her legs collapse beneath her, falling straight down like a puppet with cut strings. Dreth's pincer passed through the space where her head had been and kept going. Thrown off balance by the lack of impact dot before he could recover, Yuna rolled. The white sand was cool against her back as she passed between his lower legs. She came up behind him, her elbow already driving forward into the joint she had noticed earlier, the one on his lower left side that he favored. Her elbow hit chitin. It felt like punching a wall. Pain exploded up her arm, and for a terrible moment she thought she had accomplished nothing. Then Dreth screamed. The sound was unlike anything Yuna had ever heard. It was high and grinding, like metal being torn apart, and it echoed through the arena until the crystal walls sang with it. Dreth stumbled forward, his lower left arm hanging loose in the galleries above. Silence fell. 100 species stopped breathing. The human had heard him. The soft, weak, clawless human had actually heard him. Dreth spun around, his compound eyes blazing with something that might have been pain or rage or disbelief. His 3 working arms spread wide, ready to catch Yuna no matter which way she moved. "You," he growled. "How did you know?" Yuna was breathing hard. Her elbow throbbed, and she could already feel it swelling. That one strike had probably fractured something. She could not afford many more like it. "You favor that side when you walk," she said. "Old injury. The joint never healed right. No one knows that. I've hidden it for years. You hid it from people who were not looking." Yuna raised her fists again. "I was looking." Dreth's mandibles clicked rapidly. The translation matrix could not interpret the sound, but Yuna understood it anyway. He was recalculating. She was not what he had expected. Good. "You are more clever than you appear, human," Dreth admitted. "But cleverness is not enough. You hurt me once. You will not hurt me again. And I only need to hit you once." He was right. Yuna knew he was right. She had landed one good strike on a weak point, and it had cost her the full use of her arm. Dreth still had 3 limbs that could crush her like paper. His armor could take anything she could throw at it. His eyes could see in every direction at once. By any reasonable measure. She'd already lost, but King Yuna had never been reasonable. In the galleries. The Velthari delegation had recovered from their shock. High Counselor Tith leaned forward in his seat, his own mandibles clicking with amusement. "A lucky strike," he announced loudly. "Nothing more. Commander Dreth, stop playing with your food." Other species began to murmur agreement. A lucky strike. A moment of surprise. The human had gotten 1 hit, but the fight was already over. Everyone knew it. Everyone except Yuna. Dreth charged again. This time he was more careful, keeping his injured arm protected, using his other 3 limbs to create a wall of grasping pincers. There was no gap to slip through, no angle of attack. Yuna did not try to find one. Instead, she ran directly at him. Dreth's eyes widened. This was not a combat tactic. This was suicide. His upper pincers closed on empty air as Yuna dove forward, sliding on the sand, passing beneath the arc of his attack. She came up inside his guard, so close that his arms could not reach her. Her forehead slammed into the space beneath his mandibles, hitting a cluster of nerve endings that she had noticed twitching when he spoke. The impact sent stars exploding across her vision. She felt skin split, felt blood begin to run down her face. But she also felt Dreth's whole body spasm, his mandibles locking open, his arms going rigid for just a moment. Yuna hit him again. Same spot. Harder. Dreth staggered backward, and Yuna stayed with him, refusing to let him create distance. Her fists hammered at his joints, his nerve clusters, every soft spot she could find. Most of her strikes did nothing. A few made him twitch or grunt. One made him scream again. Then his upper left arm caught her across the shoulder. The blow lifted Yuna off her feet and sent her flying across the arena. She hit the sand hard, rolled, and came to a stop near the edge of the fighting circle. Her entire left side was numb. She tried to move her arm and felt something grind inside her shoulder. Dislocated, maybe broken. She stood up anyway. The galleries had gone completely silent again. Every species was watching with an intensity that bordered on fear. They had never seen anything like this. Dreth stood in the center of the arena, breathing hard. His lower left arm hung useless. Dark fluid leaked from several joints. His mandibles were cracked where Yuna's forehead had struck them. "What are you?" he demanded. "What kind of creature are you?" Yuna wiped blood from her eyes with her working hand. Her voice came out rough, damaged by pain. I am human. Humans have no weapons. Humans have no armor. Humans have no natural defenses. No, Una agreed. We do not. Then how are you still standing? Una thought about her father. She thought about her grandmother, who had survived a war and a famine and the death of 2 children, and who had still smiled every single day. She thought about her mother, who had worked 3 jobs to pay for Una's education, who had never complained, who had never given up. She thought about every human who had ever lived. Every ancestor who had faced predators and ice ages and diseases and wars. Every person who had been knocked down and gotten back up. Every generation that had refused to die. Because that is what humans do, she said. We get hurt. We get knocked down. We break. She raised her one working fist. And we get back up. Every time. No matter what. Until we cannot get up anymore. And then we try one more time. Dreth stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he lowered himself into a fighting stance. Then I will knock you down, he said, until you cannot get up. Una smiled through the blood on her face. You can try. The arena master had not stopped the fight. The law was clear. Combat continued until one fighter could not continue, or until one fighter surrendered. Una could not continue. Anyone could see that, but she was still standing. And she was not surrendering. So the fight went on. The fight continued for 10 more minutes. Then 20. Then 30. Every species in the galleries had stopped talking. They watched in silence as the small human girl was knocked down again and again. They watched as she broke. They watched as she bled. And they watched as she stood back up. Every single time. Dreth was not playing anymore. He had stopped taunting, stopped laughing, stopped trying to make a show of his victory. He fought with desperate efficiency, hitting Una with everything he had, trying to end this impossible contest. But every time he thought he had finished her, she rose. Her left arm was completely useless now, hanging at her side like dead weight. Blood covered half her face from the cut above her eye. She was limping badly, dragging her right leg where one of Dreth's strikes had caught her knee. Her breathing was ragged, wet, suggesting damage to her ribs. She was dying. Anyone could see it. She was dying on her feet, too stubborn or too stupid to fall. In the highest gallery, reserved for the eldest and wisest species. An ancient being known only as the historian turned to its companion. Do you understand now? The historian asked. Do you understand what humans are? The companion, a young scholar from the Crystalline Collective, shook its prismatic head. I understand nothing. She cannot win. She must know she cannot win. Why does she continue? Because winning is not the point. Then what is the point? The historian was silent for a moment, gathering thoughts that stretched back across millennia of study. I have spent 300 years researching the human species. They are the strangest creatures I have ever encountered. They are weak, short-lived, fragile. They have no natural weapons, no armor, no special abilities. By every measure of evolution, they should have gone extinct millions of years ago, but they did not. No, they did not. Because humans have something no other species possesses. They have the absolute, unshakable refusal to give up. The scholar watched as Una took another blow, spun through the air, and crashed into the sand. For a moment, she lay still. Then, slowly, impossibly, she began to push herself up again. That is not a survival trait, the scholar said. That is madness, is it? The historian gestured toward the arena. Look at her. Look at what she is accomplishing with nothing but stubbornness and pain. She has not surrendered. She has not stopped fighting. And because of that, she is still in this contest. She is barely conscious. But she is conscious. And while she is conscious, she is dangerous. The historian leaned forward. Do you know how humans hunted on their homeworld? They did not have claws or fangs. They could not outrun their prey, so they followed it. For hours, for days. They walked after animals that could run 5 times faster than them, and they kept walking until those animals collapsed from exhaustion. That is impossible. It is documented fact. Humans evolved to endure. Their bodies can operate through damage that would kill or disable any other species. They can ignore pain, suppress fear, push through injury. They called it persistence hunting. They called it marathon running. They called it. The historian paused, searching for the right translation. They called it being human. On the arena floor, Yuna had made it back to her feet. She was swaying, barely able to stand, but her eyes were still focused on Dreth. Her one working hand was still raised in a fist. Dreth stood across from her, breathing hard. He was not injured badly, not like she was, but he was tired. Exhausted in a way he had never experienced before. His species was built for quick, decisive combat. Overwhelming force, rapid victory. No one had ever made him work this long. Why? He demanded. His voice was raw, almost pleading. Why will you not stop? You have proven your courage. No one will think less of you. Just stop. Yuna shook her head slowly. Blood dripped from her chin onto the white sand. Cannot stop, she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. 3 million people. On those colony worlds. Families. Children. They are counting on me. You are one person. One broken, bleeding person. You cannot save 3 million people. Maybe not. Yuna took a step forward, almost fell, caught herself. But I can try. I will keep trying. Until I cannot try anymore. That is foolish. That is human. She lunged at him. It was not a good attack. She was too slow, too weak, too damaged. Dreth caught her easily, his upper right pincer closing around her torso, lifting her off the ground. He could have crushed her then. One squeeze and it would be over. Her ribs would collapse, her organs would rupture, and the strange, stubborn creature would finally stop moving. But he hesitated. In all his years of fighting, Dreth had never hesitated. He had killed without mercy, without doubt, without a moment of uncertainty. That was what made him a champion. That was what made the Velthari the greatest warriors in the galaxy. But something in Yuna's eyes made him pause. She was looking at him, even now, even as his pincer tightened around her chest. She was not afraid. She was not begging. She was just waiting, ready for whatever came next, ready to die, if she had to, but not ready to quit. Dreth had faced 1,000 warriors. He had killed beings that could bend space and time. He had fought creatures made of pure energy and living darkness. None of them had ever looked at him like this. None of them had ever made him feel like this. What do you want from me? He asked, his voice quiet enough that only she could hear. What do I have to do to make you stop? Yuna smiled. It was a terrible smile, bloody and broken and absolutely genuine. Beat me, she said. Beat me until I cannot move anymore. Break every bone in my body. Leave me in a pile on this sand. Her working hand reached up and gripped his pincer. Not fighting it, just holding on. Or admit that Earth is innocent. Call off your accusation. Let my people keep their worlds. That is not how this works. This is the arena. There is no negotiation. Everything is negotiation. You are negotiating right now. You are deciding whether to kill me, and you are hesitating. Why? Dreth did not answer. He did not know the answer, but somewhere deep in his warrior's heart, he was beginning to understand something that changed everything. He was not fighting a weak, soft, helpless creature. He was fighting something far more dangerous. He was fighting a human being, and humans. He was learning, did not know how to lose. Dreth threw Yuna across the arena. She hit the sand hard, rolled twice, and lay still. For a moment, the entire watching galaxy held its breath. The fight had gone on for 43 minutes now. Surely this was the end. Surely the human could not get up again. But Kim Yuna had made a promise to herself. In that preparation chamber beneath the arena, she had promised that she would stand until she could not stand anymore. And she had not reached that point yet. So she got up. It took her a long time. Her body did not want to obey her commands anymore. Every muscle screamed. Every bone ached. Her left arm was completely dead. Her right leg could barely hold her weight. And she was fairly sure she had cracked several ribs. Breathing was agony. Moving was worse. But she got up. In the galleries, something strange was happening. The representatives of 100 different species were no longer watching with amusement or pity or curiosity. They were watching with something that looked almost like awe. A delegate from the Thornback Collective turned to his companion. "This is not possible," he said. "I have seen the medical readings. Her body should have shut down 20 minutes ago. Perhaps human biology is more resilient than we thought." "It is not biology." The Thornback shook his spined head. "I have studied their species. Their bodies are fragile, average, unremarkable. What is keeping her standing is not physical. Then what is it?" The Thornback had no answer. But across the gallery, the old historian did. "Well," the historian said to anyone who would listen, "pure, absolute, unbreakable will. That is the human secret. That is what makes them dangerous. Their bodies can be broken. Their spirits cannot." On the arena floor, Yuna was moving again. Not toward Dreth this time. She was circling, slowly, forcing him to turn, making him work. It was a tiny thing, a small victory, but it was something. Dreth watched her with eyes that no longer held contempt. "You are stalling," he said. "You think if you can last long enough, something will change. But nothing will change, human. The Council will not stop this fight. Your ambassador will not recover in time to save you. There is no rescue coming." "I know," Yuna said. "Then why?" "Because every minute I am still standing is a minute you have not won." Yuna spat blood onto the sand. "Every minute I am still fighting is a minute my people are still free. And every minute you spend trying to break me is a minute you have to wonder if you can." Dreth's mandibles clicked in frustration. "I can break you. I have broken champions far stronger than you." "Maybe, but have you ever broken someone who does not care about being broken?" Dreth did not answer. The truth was, he had not. Every opponent he had ever faced had been trying to win. They fought to survive, to triumph, to prove their strength. When they realized they could not win, they surrendered or died quickly. Yuna was not trying to win. She was not fighting for victory. She was fighting to not lose. And that was something entirely different. High Counselor Tith rose from his seat in the Volturi gallery. His mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. "Commander Dreth," he called out. "End this. Now. You are embarrassing our empire." Dreth looked up at his leader, then back at Yuna. Something shifted in his compound eyes. "She has embarrassed no one," he said. "She has fought with more honor than any opponent I have ever faced." A murmur ran through the galleries. Teth's mandibles went still. "What did you say?" "I said she has honor." Dreth turned fully toward the Velthari delegation. "She came into this arena knowing she could not win. She faced me knowing I would hurt her, break her, possibly kill her. And she has not stopped. She has not surrendered. She has not asked for mercy." He gestured at Yuna with one of his working arms. "Can you say the same, High Counselor? If you were in her place, would you still be standing? Would you still be fighting? Or would you have surrendered the moment you saw me?" Teth's eyes widened. "You dare question me?" "I dare speak truth. This human has earned my respect. What have you earned, sitting safely in your gallery, demanding that I end her quickly so you do not have to watch? The arena had gone completely silent. No one had ever seen a champion defy their own leader. No one had ever seen a Velthari warrior praise an opponent. Yuna watched this exchange with eyes that were growing dim. She was fading. She could feel her consciousness slipping away, her body finally reaching the limits of what will alone could sustain. But she forced herself to stay focused. Something was happening here. Something important. "Commander Dreth," she said, her voice barely audible. "What are you doing?" Dreth turned back to her. For a long moment, he simply looked at her, this broken, bloody, impossibly stubborn creature who had changed everything he thought he knew about strength. "I am learning," he said. "I have spent my life believing that power comes from size and strength and natural weapons. I believed that the weak were meant to serve the strong. I believed that surrender was the only option for those who could not win." He lowered himself until his eyes were level with hers. "You have shown me that I was wrong. You have no weapons. You have no armor. You have nothing except the refusal to stop. And with that alone, you have fought me to a standstill." "I have not fought you to a standstill," Yuna said. "You are barely injured. I am dying, and yet here you stand." Dreth's mandibles moved in what might have been a smile. "Dying, broken, bleeding, and still standing. Still fighting. Still refusing to surrender." He straightened up. "I have killed many enemies in this arena. I have won many victories. But I have never respected an opponent the way I respect you, Kim Yuna of Earth." He raised his voice so that every gallery could hear. "I will not end this fight quickly. I will not crush her like an insect for your entertainment. If she falls with honor. And if she does not fall," he looked at Yuna one more time, "then perhaps I need to reconsider what it means to be strong." Tith was screaming something, but Dreth ignored him. The other species in the galleries were talking over each other, 100 languages blending into chaos. But Yuna heard none of it. She was looking at Dreth, at this enemy who'd somehow become something else, and she felt something she had not expected. Hope. "Thank you," she said. Dreth nodded. "Do not thank me yet. I will still fight. I will still try to defeat you. That is my duty, I know." Yuna raised her fist one more time. "And I will still try to stop you. That is mine." The fight continued. The fight had gone on for 47 minutes when Kim Yuna saw her chance. She was barely conscious by then. Her vision had narrowed to a tunnel, with Dreth at the center and everything else fading to gray. Her body had stopped sending pain signals because there was too much pain to process. She moved on instinct now, on training, on the muscle memory her father had beaten into her over 20 years of mornings. Dreth was tired. She could see it in the way he moved, the slight hesitation before each strike. His species was not built for extended combat. They were ambush predators, creatures of overwhelming force and quick victory. 47 minutes of continuous fighting had pushed him beyond anything he had experienced before, and he was holding back. Yuna had noticed it 10 minutes ago. Dreth's strikes were still dangerous, still powerful enough to kill her if they landed cleanly, but they were not as fast as they had been at the start. He was giving her time to dodge, time to block, time to survive. He was letting her live. Part of Yuna wanted to be angry about that. She had not asked for mercy. She did not want to win because her opponent felt sorry for her. But another part of her, the part that was still thinking clearly, understood what Dreth was doing. He was not showing mercy. He was showing respect. He wanted to see how long she could last. He wanted to know the limits of human endurance. And somewhere along the way, he had stopped trying to defeat her and started trying to understand her. That was his mistake. Yuna had spent the last 10 minutes studying Dreth's movements. She had learned his patterns, his rhythms, the way he shifted his weight before each attack. And she had remembered something from her research on the journey to the summit. The Valkyrie had a weakness. A nerve cluster located beneath their primary eyes, protected by a ridge of bone but vulnerable to a direct strike. If hit precisely, it triggered involuntary paralysis. The effect was temporary, lasting only a few minutes, but for a few minutes, the Valkyrie would be completely helpless. The problem was reaching it. The nerve cluster was high on Dreth's body, above Yuna's head height. She would have to jump to hit it. And in her current condition, she could barely walk. But she had one good leg. And she had one chance. Dreth began his next attack, a sweeping strike with his upper right arm. Yuna had seen this pattern 3 times before. After the sweep, he always paused to reset his stance. It was a tiny window, less than a second, but it was enough. She did not dodge the strike. Instead, she moved into it. Dreth's pincer caught her across the side, sending fresh agony through her broken ribs. But the impact also gave her momentum, spinning her toward him instead of away. She used that momentum, pushing off with her good leg, launching herself upward. For a moment, she flew. Her forehead connected with the space beneath Dreth's primary eyes. She felt the impact through her entire skull, felt something crack, felt the world go white with pain, but she also felt Dreth's body go rigid beneath her. He collapsed like a statue falling. His arms locked at his sides. His legs gave out. He hit the sand with a crash that echoed through the silent arena. Yuna landed beside him, hard enough to drive the remaining breath from her lungs. She lay there for a moment, unable to move, unable to think, just trying to survive the next heartbeat and the next. Then, slowly, she began to push herself up. It took everything she had left. Every drop of will, every ounce of stubbornness, every lesson her father had ever taught her about pain and perseverance and the absolute refusal to quit. Her arms shook. Her legs trembled. Blood dripped from her face onto the white sand. But she stood. She stood over Commander Dreth of the Valkyrie Empire, the greatest warrior his species had ever produced, who lay paralyzed at her feet. The arena master's voice rang out across the sand. Commander Dreth is unable to continue. The victory goes to Kim Yuna of Earth. Silence. Then slowly sound began to fill the galleries. Not cheering, not yet. Something deeper. A murmur of disbelief that grew into a roar of astonishment, that grew into something that shook the very walls of the great hall. 100 species were witnessing the impossible. A human, the weakest species in the known galaxy, had defeated a champion of the Valkyrie. Not through luck or trickery, but through pure, absolute, unyielding will. Yuna barely heard any of it. She was looking down at Dreth, whose eyes could still move, still see, even if the rest of his body could not. "I am sorry," she said. "I did not want to hurt you." Dreth's mandibles twitched, the beginnings of motion returning. "You did what you had to do. You protected your people. Yes. And you showed the galaxy what humans are capable of." Yuna nodded slowly. Then she turned to face the galleries, to face the representatives of 100 different species who were staring at her with new eyes. "Earth accepts the Council's judgment," she said. Her voice was barely a whisper, but the translation matrix carried it to every ear. "The trade dispute is resolved in humanity's favor. Our colony worlds remain free." She paused, swaying on her feet. She knew she should stop there. She knew she should let the moment speak for itself. But there was something else that needed to be said. "I want you all to understand something." She raised her eyes to the highest galleries, to the oldest and wisest species. "Humans do not want war. We do not want conflict. We came to the stars looking for friends, not enemies." She gestured at her broken body, at the blood and the damage and the pain. "But if anyone threatens our people, our worlds, our children, we will fight. We will fight with everything we have. We will fight until we cannot fight anymore. And then we will find a way to fight some more." She smiled, bloody and broken and absolutely genuine. We are humans. We do not know how to quit. We do not know how to surrender. We do not know how to die peacefully when someone we love is in danger. Her voice grew stronger, fueled by something beyond physical strength. "So please, welcome us as friends. Trade with us. Talk with us. Let us be part of your great galactic community." She looked directly at High Counselor Tith, who sat frozen in his seat. "But do not threaten us. Do not underestimate us. And do not ever assume that because we are small and soft and have no claws, we are weak." She raised her fist one final time. "We are not weak. We are human. And today, you have seen what that means." Then Kim Yuna's legs finally gave out, and she collapsed onto the white sand. But she had said what she needed to say. And the galaxy had heard. 6 months later, Yuna stood on the observation deck of Earth's first embassy to the Galactic Council. She walked with a slight limp now, a permanent reminder of the day she had changed humanity's place in the universe. Some injuries never fully healed, but she was alive. Her people were free, and every species in the known galaxy now thought twice before challenging a human. Young Velthary approached her nervously. She recognized the pattern of its carapace. "You are Dreth's offspring," she said. Double quotes, "Yes. My father wished me to give you this." The young alien held out a single claw, ceremonially removed. "It is the highest honor a warrior can bestow." Yuna took it gently. "Tell your father I said, thank you. And tell him I hope we never have to fight again." He said the same thing. The young Velthary bowed. "But he also said that if you ever need an ally, you should call on him. He would be honored to stand beside you." After the young alien left, Yuna stood alone, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, her father was waiting for her to come home. Her mother was probably making her favorite food, pretending she was not crying. Her grandmother was sitting in her chair by the window, watching the sky and smiling. They had not seen what she had done. They had only heard about it months later, when the news finally reached Earth. But they had known. They had always known, because they were human too, and humans did not give up. Yuna put the claw in her pocket and smiled at the stars. She was ready for whatever came next.